experience. And I went to USC, which is in the middle of South Central. And I'm like, well, I've been there, I've done that. I haven't done what I did with Mary. It was very different. And I knew it was different right in the beginning because the playground was full of children and we had to skirt around the children because we didn't have enough food to feed the kids. And that was heartbreaking, to be honest. It makes me emotional remembering that right now. So I'm on the board with Mary. I work with Mary pretty closely, and I'm offering to match donations at up to $500 so that these kids can have some food next time we go to the park. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mary and encourage you all to pay close attention.
Thanks, Jeff. So I hope everybody has their chai. I have mine. As I was getting ready for this evening, I was thinking back to, in the last couple of months, I've had to do two, what I would consider significant presentations about the work of the Reciprocity Collective. And they were intricately timed. I had this very audience-focused message. One was towards entrepreneurs, the other was towards innovation. And I pitched what I thought was a, really dynamic and exciting pitch. It was, it had all the right numbers, who we serve, how we work in the community, all those things. And it didn't work. And I walked away from both pitches. It didn't work in the sense that we were fortunate to be finalists for these competitions. We were the only organization serving the homeless community in those competitions. But it didn't work in that I could tell it didn't resonate. That I'm sitting there talking about all the things that I see every day and experience every day, but I wasn't telling it in a way that anybody could really connect to. And so I started thinking about, maybe I need to talk about why I'm in this work. So I think I'm going to step back a minute. We're going to show the video. And that's a nice segue to really know why we do what we do. And so let's hit it. We go by whatever name you want to go by.
Okay, we're going to go by Angel.
We're going to go by
Because I try to be an angel.
Well, that is an admirable intention, and I would imagine you pull it off pretty well. Why it's so important to have cell phones.
Oh my Lord.
Something we all take it
For granted.
So you have your cell phone stolen. How long ago was that?
This was when I first got back from Texas. I flew in, I had everything, and I felt good. They stole it 2 days after I got here. And so, with this COVID, you can't just walk up to people and say, may I use your phone? So I haven't been able to really reach out to my family, to call my doctor, and just to do anything. You need a phone to do anything. And it's been hard.
Thank you, babe. Okay.
God bless you.
Take care. Okay, take care. Yeah, and we want to hear from you.
Oh, you will. I promise you will.
Yeah.
And look, I ain't got flowers.
Okay. Imagine what your life would be like, even for a single day, without a phone, and you were just cut off. How would you stay connected? Make appointments, get information, talk to family and friends, access services like healthcare, or find employment. We take this instant connection to the world for granted. Basic human needs are defined as clothing, food, and shelter. But without a phone, all of these services and more are out of reach, making the phone itself a basic human need. A donation of $175 puts a smartphone with 6 months of full service into the hands of someone in need to give them the dignity and empowerment of human connection.
Hello, this is Mary. I just want to say thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me this phone, because I was able to call my mama and my sons on their birthdays and everything. Darling, thank you so much. Thank you so much. God bless you. Goodbye.
So while that video is about a specific project that we have happening right now, what I love about it is it really speaks to why the Reciprocity Collective was founded. Our hearts. I, like so many of you, I was not in the nonprofit sector until 2010, and that was after a 35-year career in the restaurant business. And I started working for the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, setting up a social enterprise that would provide employment for people who were coming out of homelessness. And when I tell the story of that, I tell the story and I say, it was a life-changing experience. And I don't know how to say it. It was profoundly life-changing. And I think it was because I probably, like so many of you, we drive through the streets, we'll walk past folks that are holding signs up or sleeping on a park bench. And sometimes we don't even really see them anymore. I was the person, probably like so many of you, we pull up to a street corner and we're sitting at the light and there's a guy that's only 5 feet away from us through our window and he's holding a sign and we can't make eye contact, right? Come on. I even struggle with it now because I feel like, should I do something? Do I need to jump, whatever that looks like. But there's something that we do maybe it's to protect ourselves from how inhumane homelessness is, how heartbreaking it is, and how huge it seems when you allow yourself to really look at it. And that's why I started the Reciprocity Collective. When I entered the world of social justice and started working for this large homeless organization, because I am an entrepreneur, really looked at it with kind of this problem-solving lens and really trying to define, how do we take care of the customer, which is someone who's experiencing homelessness? How do we take care of them the best? Because that's what we do when we are entrepreneurs. And I was upset and frustrated by the fact that I didn't see any of that happening in homeless services. I didn't like the lack of collaboration between large agencies. I felt it wasn't effective or efficient use of resources. I didn't like the disrespect in which people experiencing homelessness were treated with. And the reason it really struck me is because every person I met that I worked with and I sat down with, it didn't matter if I was 45 years old and I was sitting there with a 20-year-old gangbanger who had spent most of his adult life in incarceration. And what all those things that look so different than my experience. And I got to know him and realized there weren't too many steps between our humanity, the things we wanted with our lives, the hopes we had for our children, for ourselves, how we hated being treated badly, how all we wanted to do was be valued and respected. And that just doesn't happen when you experience homelessness. So I founded Reciprocity Collective in 2016 with the thinking of, besides a big name that nobody can pronounce, reciprocity is my favorite word because it's all about you give and you get. It's the energy you put forth and it comes back to you. And everything is for the benefit of all. Every single independent movement is ultimately for everyone. And it's a way of thinking and an approach that I felt, let's embrace the homeless community with this thinking. Let's put together a strong network of all these different organizations that are going to work together for once and surround themselves with one individual. And it's going to be the one person in that center saying what they need, not what anyone else is telling them, but what they need. And then the rest of us are going, okay, let's do this. Let's pull this, let's pull that. And is it hard? Yeah, I say it's chaos theory. It's nonlinear, it looks very chaotic, but when you're doing the work, now, and I always get this backwards, the sum of the parts is greater than its whole. All of this energy coming together is brought together for each person one at a time. and the results can be astounding. So, you know, you can find out more about our work, and we have great numbers and all those things, but when it really comes down to it, what we're asking you and asking everyone is to look, to watch, to notice. And when you think about where can I step in? So we have the wish wall that kind of tells you some places. But the first step is to notice that there are people that live in our world, outside of our doors, down our streets, that have a completely different experience than what most of us are experiencing every day. A cell phone that we talk about, that so many of us are connected to, that is, if you don't have it, really think about it. Put your cell phone down and think, I'm not going to pick that up for a day. I'm not going to connect with anybody. I'm not going to get what I need. And we're people that are sitting in warm homes, getting a meal, clothes on our back, know where the next paycheck's coming. So this connection, when we lose it for a little bit, okay. But imagine if this was a lifeline, or even just the fact that somebody notices you, talks to you, asks you how you're doing. These are the powerful moments that drive what we do. And myself, like the other like Jeff and I'm sorry, I'm totally Ford tonight. You know, we've started organizations because we passionately believe in something. We saw a need in the community and we wanted to fill it. And so we advocate for that and we talk about it all the time. And so sometimes we just may forget that what we really need to talk about is the heart behind the work that we do. And we're here tonight asking all of you to really think about the folks we serve, the folks that Ford serves, that Jeff serves, the folks we serve, and why it's important that we all collectively think about those who have less than us, or those who have different experiences than us. And how can we give our energy and our time and our efforts and our attention to maybe provide some equity in what a life can look like, and how comfortable it can be, and what opportunities it can bring. So thank you everybody for letting me speak briefly this evening. And I hope that I'm happy to answer any questions later. And so happy that you are all here and interested in learning about this great work that's happening in the community. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mary. The video makes me cry every time, and every time I hear you talk, the same thing happens. I think everybody can understand why I love to work with you so much. It's so much power. So I need to move on to the next one. So we're going to move on to Jeff Davis with Period Kits. I love being part of this because I grew up in a house where, you know, I had a sister and we lived under the same roof for 16 years. And she's got 2 kids and is probably going through some early and menopausal things, you know, I don't know. And I can tell you, I have no idea if she's ever had a period. I mean, it was something that was never discussed at our house. You know, she's got 2 kids, so I'm guessing that's probably true. But it's really a shame that my parents, like probably many of ours, grew up in a world where the men did their thing and the women did their thing. And there wasn't much conversation between the two about what each other meant. And it's extraordinary to me to think about that, because if it wasn't for the period, none of us would be here. And I'm sorry if I'm stealing any of your thunder, Jeff, but I mean, it's amazing to me that this is a very normal human thing. And somehow in our modern society, we've put a taboo around this thing that makes it messy or gross or hard to talk about, and it really shouldn't be. And I didn't really realize that until I got into college and got away from my family a little bit and started dealing with, you know, the sororities across the street and all that kind of stuff. And I met people where, you know, periods weren't taboo, where it was something that not only did you talk about, but you could notice how these things were moving. You could see an entire sorority get synchronized on the same cycle. And we would talk about how for a couple of days every month, you just wouldn't go to the Kappa house because, that's just the way it was. And there was nothing really odd about it, to be honest. And that was just a really nice, refreshing thing to see that, we're all human and we all have our own human things, and that's the way it is. So I love the fact that this nonprofit exists, but it's a shame that this nonprofit has to exist because, there's no reason why I can go into the bathroom in a public restroom and have toilet paper and paper towels and soap, and a woman can't go into the same, into her restroom and have to bring her own tampons and pads and whatever that is. I mean, it shouldn't be that way. These are all common needs and they should be available. So I'm also on the board of Period Kits, and am matching up to $500 for anybody that donates to the Period Kits. And I would really encourage you to do so, because there's no reason that a female should have to choose whether they're going to buy tampons or food. So with that, I'll hand it over to Jeff, who spells his name correctly, by the way.
I was just going to say, he not only spells his name wrong, but he stole pretty much everything I was going to say. So my name is Jeff Davis. I am the founder and executive director of Period Kits. Me and two of my board members, Karen and Caitlin, are just going to share a little bit about what we do and kind of where we're going. I met a lady in March of 2018 named Ashley Byrne, who had she wanted to build 300 period kits for the homeless for her birthday. And I became involved in that, got to know Ashley and her husband. And one time we were out at an event and having some beers, and Ashley talked a little bit about growing up, and she grew up. She always talked about living in Motel 6s. She didn't have it great growing up. And one thing she said was that I've been there. I've had food and I've had tampons, and I had to put the food back. And for me, that really, really resonated, just on a level that that's something that no person should have to figure out. And so as we went on a little bit, Ashley and Sean decided to move. And part of their thing was they had no desire to form a 501c3 or file articles of incorporation or any of that stuff. So in March of 2019, I filed the paperwork. I paid for the articles of incorporation. And as was sitting there thinking about all of this, it's just, I woke up and what was running through my head was, because besides the obvious fact that this should be ran by a 50-year-old fat white guy, this is about dignity, right? This is about, I woke up with that, and why am I doing this? And why do I care? And as I got to learn more about this issue, and part of that conversation with Ashley was, well, what does someone use if they are just hungry that day? And Ashley went on to say that folks will use newspaper, folks will use t-shirts, folks will use cotton balls, folks will ration themselves tampons. They'll change their tampon every other day. And that's just something that no one should have to deal with. Like Jeff said, and I sometimes feel this is really kind of stupid that I have to do this sometimes, because these are the items that shouldn't be taxed, and these are items that should be covered by SNAP, and they're not. So that's my little piece, and I know Carol wants to say a few words about why she became involved, and then Caitlin's going to finish us up. We're all around later for Q&A, but thank you so much. Thanks everyone for being here, and especially Natasha, thanks for having us. I really appreciate it. Now,
I
Kara.
think we maybe lost Kara. Oh, she's back. Okay.
Yeah, I was gone. I've had technical issues, so I'm happy you guys can see me. So yes, I'm Kara Grano. I am a board member of Period Kits as well. I became involved in Period Kits. Actually, I met Jeff with a G, at a networking event around this time last year, in October of last year. And we were just kind of chatting about nonprofits and how we both have backgrounds in that field. And he mentioned Period Kits, how he had founded this nonprofit, and he asked me if I knew about period poverty. And I guess I should have prefaced this with saying, you know, when I was in school, I studied a lot. I studied history, but with a focus on women and gender studies, took a lot of sociology classes, considered myself pretty well versed in a lot of these types of issues, social justice issues that are facing our community here in the United States. And I had never heard really of period poverty being a state issue. I had heard about it maybe in developing countries and different things like that, but that was really the extent that I had ever heard about period poverty. And Jeff brought up the statistic that 1 in 4 girls in the United States misses school every month due to lack of access to products. And that really kind of hit me hard, because that's a lot of young teens that are missing school once a month. And when you think about the repercussions of missing school once a month, or a few days, I should say, every month for 9 months out of the year, how much you can fall behind. And, you know, so for a school perspective, you know, you're missing out on lessons, you're unable to, you know, make up tests, so your grades fall behind. That's going to eventually affect your test scores, your SATs, your ability to get into college, which is going to affect your ability to get a good job and provide for yourself, and then eventually a family, should you choose. So there are just so many lifelong repercussions that missing school 2, 3, 4 days a week, once a month, can have on a young person. And I just couldn't understand why this was something that I hadn't heard of. And that's when it really hit me that it was because of the stigma that is still around periods and menstruation in this country to this day. And I had this flashback of myself when I was in 6th grade, and my little green Gap purse that I had, that I decided to cut a little slit into the side of it to hide any tampons that I had, because I was so worried that potentially my purse could fall over and somebody may see that I had a tampon inside my purse. So I felt the need to cut a hole into it. So that's just a little bit about, you know, kind of why I got involved, because I saw such a huge, you know, dual-sided need, not only in, like what Jeff mentioned, providing health and dignity to our neighbors here in our community, but also ensuring that we end the stigma that's around periods, because until we end that stigma, we'll never truly be able to end period poverty. So period kits, you know, our mission is that nobody should have to choose between food and tampons. And because of that, we partner with different community agencies in addition to direct street outreach. And this year, since we've started, we've given out 2,924 kits, 1,600 COVID kits, 132,000 tampons, about 66,000 pads, 66,000 liners, 17,000 pairs of underwear, and about 2,900 packages of wipes. And that's with 6 agencies that we serve right now, and we still have quite a few on the wait list. So with that being said, I would love to be able to pass it along to Caitlin, who's going to talk about where we are going.
Hi, I'm Caitlin. Like Kara, I got involved with period kits last October. I had a very similar upbringing to Ashley, the woman who this project was like her idea. And when I left home in South Dakota and then college in Lincoln, Nebraska, I didn't know when I got here who to reach out to help. So somebody on the Period Kits Instagram found me one day, and the rest is kind of history. I'm in a place now where I can help people who were in the place that I was when I was younger, and it feels really good to be able to help. With that being said, we have a lot of goals for the next year to help more people, to take some people off of our waiting list. We've, like Kara had said, we've distributed like almost 300,000 products, and we'd like to do at least that next year. I don't know, Jeff, if you can do that math really quick while I'm talking, but that's a lot of periods. There's too many people that aren't being served in the ways that they need to be served. So we want to help that. We want to fill that need, fill the gap by adding more service agencies, and then getting those agencies the products that they need to best serve the people that they're serving. And yeah, I don't know. I think, Jeff, did you do that math?
You're unmuted.
No. I don't know how many that is, but that's a lot of periods.
If we could take everybody off the wait list and provide the services just to the 12 agencies that we know about, it would be about 4,000 kits a month. So about 12,000 periods supported on a monthly basis. All right, Jeff with the J.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm now Jen Kinsey, thanks to my laptop going down. So thank you for that. Just incredible. So appreciate you sharing all that. And it's great to learn this, from that level of detail. It's just fantastic. So thank you. So next up, we've got Ford Church. We, in a way, saved Ford for last to a large extent. It's because this really comes back full circle because, Ford started this project in school. This was a school project that he did, 17 or so years ago, when I think many of you out there might have still been in diapers or so. So I also wanted to say Ford for last because that's who I want to be Ford when I grow up. Name and everything. I mean, I'm a huge outdoorsman. I have so much appreciation for what we learn in the outdoors. And, I know one of Ford's primary drivers is that, we're faced with incredible environmental issues and they're being addressed by people that are in cities that don't have any idea what it's like to be out in the woods and really understand what it means to see a waterfall. So to be able to take children from underserved communities into the woods and teach them life from that perspective so that they're equipped to go back into the world and solve these incredible problems is just tremendous. So I'm so impressed with what you do, Ford. I'm so proud to know you and I'm looking forward to what you have to share with us. Thank you.
Well, that is a very kind introduction. Thank you so much, Jeff. So like I said, my name's Ford Church. I'm the founder and executive director of Cottonwood Institute. I'm actually going to start off with a quick video just to give you a quick high level overview about what we're up to. So we can cue up the video.
My name is Ford Church, and I'm the founder and executive director of Cottonwood Institute.
It's an organization that lets kids discover that they can make change.
We're really trying to do two things. One, connect students to the outdoors. And two, we want to empower them to address local issues in their schools or their communities and the environment to help future generations.
This class is like introducing us to new fields that we can go into. And I think that everyone else is rethinking their environment and what effect it has on them.
Our core program is a class that students actually sign up for called the Community Adventure Program. And through that, they meet weekly. They go on overnight camping trips, and then they design and implement their action project, is what we call it. There's so many students that live in Colorado and the Front Range that see the mountains every day and have never been. So that's one problem that we address. The other problem is that there's so many negative issues affecting our world, our planet, our communities, and that's all students get bombarded with. So we give them a positive outlet to address issues that they're passionate about, and then they get to do something positive to address it.
What they get out of the class is this amazing sense of belonging to a group that can make change happen. And I think that is just as powerful as our original goals to connect them to nature and empower them to have a voice.
All right. So that just gives a little pre-COVID overview about what we have been up to. And just to give you a little background about how this all got started, I grew up in New Orleans, and I was fortunate to be involved with an outdoor program when I was in high school. The program had a huge impact on my life, taught me essential camping skills, outdoor skills, helped me develop my personal environmental ethic, my service ethic. And unfortunately, my senior year, the admin decided to cut the program. They thought it was too expensive and risky for the number of students that it benefited. And I was crushed. I was graduating. No one was really fighting for the program anymore. And so I decided when I grew up, I wanted to make this kind of program accessible to other students. So fast forward, I took a Knowles course. It was an outdoor educator course, give me kind of another step and foundation in this direction. I actually went to the University of Denver, which is what brought me to Colorado, studied business and marketing. I figured out after I graduated what I didn't want to do in life, which was sell advertising. No offense to anyone who their dream is ad sales, good on you. Just wasn't what I wanted to be up to in the world. And so I decided to quit, and everyone's like, don't quit until you know what you want to do. But I decided to just kind of take the leap. And I found myself very shortly after working for a school called Boulder Outdoor Survival School. It's called BOSS. And they were actually corporately based in Colorado for a while in Boulder. But then they moved their headquarters down to Boulder, Utah, the other Boulder. Anyway, they ran survival programs in the deserts of Utah for adults. And BOSS was an incredible experience for me in my early 20s. I worked there for a couple seasons, learned so much from, survival skills to how to run a medium-sized adventure travel company, to starting to instruct with them. And after about that third season or so, we ended up parting ways because I really wanted to get back to working with middle and high school students, and they primarily worked with adults. So I knew I wanted to start my own, organization or program someday. Didn't quite know where to start, so I wanted to put some thought and intention behind it. So that's where I found a grad program with Prescott College in Prescott, Arizona. And they had a distance master's program, so I could still live and work in Boulder, and then, fly down every once in a while to have colloquiums and whatnot and finish that degree. But basically, that was all the foundation for what ultimately became Cottonwood. So our core program, CAP, that I described in the video was actually the culminating project of my master's thesis. And after graduating, I had to go find a school that would let me pilot this program. And I'm not a formal classroom teacher. I'd worked for a survival school and some environmental ed programs. And I had to convince this school to let me pilot this program. So I found New Vista High School up in Boulder, which is an alternative public school, and connected with the principal at the time. And she loved the idea. And she said, look, if you can get 10 kids to sign up, we'll offer this class. So that was October of 2003. We actually got 15 students to sign up, and we've been offering it every year since. And I incorporated Cottonwood about a year later in 2004. So, we're on a mission to really connect public school students to the outdoors, inspire them to become leaders, problem solvers, and change makers in their communities. And we have this, some people, you get this question on grants sometimes. They're like, what's your change theory? I'm like, I don't know what our change theory is. But then, I actually thought about it. It's like, all right. And actually, I will say that I got this from a grad school buddy of mine, Mike Musialski. And I don't know who, he got it from someone else. So if anyone can find the origination of this, I would love to hear. But basically the change theory, it's a formula. It says gift plus issue equals change. So everyone has a gift. They're all good at something. Every student we work with is good at something. When they apply that to an issue that they're passionate about, they make small changes in their own lives. They start to make a difference. That change kind of ripples out with friends and family, schools, communities, the environment, then the world. So that's kind of our ripple effect change theory. And like Mary said, we talk about our metrics because people sometimes ask us that. We work with about 400 participants throughout the school year, about 30 different programs and 11 different school partners. We do about 15,000 or so program contact hours with students, and about 7,000 of those contact hours are direct service learning. So that's when they're taking on their action projects. Numbers are great and all, but I really love hearing about really how students are impacted by our programs. And we had one CAP student, his name was Robert Marquez, who's from Lafayette in Boulder County. And he was one of our Ripple Effect Award winners a year or two ago. And he said, this class is so much more than camping, because that's where a lot of people stop. It's so much more than camping. It provided my friends and me with an opportunity to talk about real world issues that are affecting us right now. I'll continue to try to educate and have discussions about the environment with people so that we can work together and make the world a better place. So that was all of our kind of pre-COVID programming. And so now we're about 8 months into the pandemic. Like many, it's turned our world upside down. Everything we've done the past 16 years or so, from programming to fundraising to operations, has changed. If you're familiar with that book, it's a real short story, Who Moved My Cheese? I constantly remind our board and staff members that our cheese has moved and we've got to go find new cheese. So initially we dove deep into crisis planning mode. We shored up our finances, cut back on non-essential expenses, used our quarantine time as best we could. We created our COVID-19 risk management protocol for when we could go back to in-person programming, revamped our curriculum, created an Explore Outside handbook, and sent about 150 thrival kits, is what we call them. It's kind of a blend of survival and thriving, or thriving and surviving. So our thrival kits, which helped students explore outside from home when we couldn't give kind of direct programming to them. So we used our quarantine time also to reconnect with the communities that we serve and listen to their needs and hear how they've changed, because we had a good understanding of what their needs were before COVID hit, and it just kind of flipped upside down. We confirmed a lot that a lot of our students are feeling isolated, alone. They're spending a majority of their time inside and online. They're definitely craving community and purpose in a changing and uncertain world. So this really reaffirmed the importance and need of our programs now more than ever. We give kind of students a space, fun, supportive, meaningful, engaging, an impactful way to build community, explore outside, and make a difference. So this past summer, we piloted the first ever Explore Outside program, which we ironically had to do online to get them offline, if that makes sense. But we figured it out. We proved it with another group that we work with in Longmont called Casa de la Esperanza. And we piloted an online leadership and team building program with Breakthrough at Kent Denver. Our fall programs return virtually at New Vista High School in Boulder. And we're working with Angevine Middle School in Centaurus, High School in Lafayette, and Axel Academy in Aurora. So students were able to still, while online in a virtual world, create some really real world action projects and continue to make a difference. So we also used the pandemic as an opportunity to develop a couple new programs. We ended up partnering with Wildland Restoration Volunteers, also up in Boulder, and Entrepreneurial Earth in Lafayette, to create this youth stewardship internship program. So basically this project's funded by Thorn Nature Experience in Boulder and Great Outdoors Colorado, and provides a year-long paid internship for Lafayette high school students. That was one of the needs that came out of our needs assessment, is high school students needed a way to make money during this pandemic. And so this was one of our ways where we could have them do meaningful service for the environment, good work in the community with the city of Lafayette, and get paid. And we also continued innovating new programs. There's a new one called the Changemaker program. And it's for our alumni who took the CAP program, but wanted to go deeper in their outdoor skills, strengthen the skills that they need to be leaders and problem solvers and change makers in their community. So these programs wouldn't be accessible or possible without funding. Anonymous donors, foundations, individuals, businesses, everyone kind of coming together to make sure these programs are fully funded. Which gets us to the pitch, right? So how can you help tonight? This is why we're all here, right? So with the uncertainty about 2021, what that will look like, it's a great time to show your love and support for CI through your goods, time, and talent, and really to make sure our critical programs are fully funded and supported. Now we have a goal from now between the end of the year to raise $75,000, which might knock some people off their chair, between now and December 31st to help set us up for success. And there's 3 ways you can help right now. One, make a straight up donation. That's always great. And I think tonight, Natasha will probably mention this more, but if you make donations through Chive for Charity, they will come to our individual organizations. And I don't know if everyone's familiar with Colorado Gives Day, but we actually have 3 amazing families who've been longtime supporters who've come together to offer a $20,000 match towards our $75,000 goal. It's a dollar for dollar match. So even if you give $5, that becomes $10. And that will also count towards Colorado Gives Day. And through Colorado Gives Day, we also get an incentive match. It's not really a true match, but you basically get a percentage of $1 million incentive fund that they've set up through their organization. And of course, we have the wish list wall, which we'll talk about later. I think the big kind of needs on the wish list wall for us are Google Chromebooks for our students who don't have computer access for our online programs, Spanish translation for some of our written communications. And if you haven't noticed, that video that I showed you is a little dated now. Our programs have changed a little bit because we had to. And so we're looking for someone with some film and editing skills to help us with a new 2-minute video. So that's the main ways you can help out tonight. You know, I think we'll be able to connect in the breakout sessions, but thanks again for all coming tonight. Thanks to Chai for Charity, Jeff, everyone else for hosting us.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ford. As I mentioned, I'm Natasha, and I am obsessed with the 3 nonprofits that you are hearing about today. I grew up low income, and so I've actually experienced period poverty, and outdoor education programs were not available to me. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and so I'm just thrilled that those 2 organizations exist. And Cottonwood actually works in my community, and so my kids will attend Angevine and Centaurus and hopefully have access to some of the programming that Cottonwood creates. And Mary and I have actually very similar life paths. So we have she's had a tremendous career and came to nonprofit work right about now. I've had a decent career. I'm still working on it. And I've recently come to nonprofit work. And so I'm obsessed. They're really, really great causes. And I'm excited that you get to learn more about them today. It's my turn to tell you about Chai for Charity. Chai for Charity inspires people to give in creative ways. It was born 9 years ago when I had done a bunch of research about nonprofits that I was excited about and wanted to share it with my friends. So I threw an event. I actually got my girlfriends across North America to throw events in their city. So we threw 6 events across North America on the same day at the same time and collectively raised $6,000 for survivors of domestic violence. And it was electric. We had started something magical. We were going to do a thing. And then 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant with my first son. And I have essentially been pregnant ever since. I've got 3 sons under 9 years old, and we had to put Chai for Charity on pause for a little while I raised my family. And every year I'd go to my husband and say, this is the year, it's gonna come back. I'm gonna repurchase the domain. Chai for Charity is gonna be reborn. And every year we'd get pregnant or I'd be raising an infant. And a couple of years ago, so we were in California at the time. We moved to Colorado, and a couple of years ago, I took a break from work and was trying to get the noise of work out of my head. And on day 2 of my leave, I decided to relaunch Chai for Charity in my backyard in Lafayette. And it was terrific, electric, magical, all the good things. And 3 months later, we decided to incorporate as a nonprofit, and we're going to be 2 years old in January, and we're really proud of that. Chai for Charity, the reason why I created Chai for Charity is that I was actually looking for a way to donate more than my money. I wanted to give in other ways. And that's why our mission is to inspire people to give in creative ways, because what we're trying to do is create a giving model that is as inclusive as possible of people of different socioeconomic backgrounds and different generations, so that they can give in ways that honor where they are in life. Because 20-year-old me had lots of time and very little talent and very little money, and 40-year-old me has very little time and some talent and some money, and 60-year-old me will have a whole different version of those things. So we've created Chai for Charity to invite people to give in a number of categories. So they can give more money and less time, more time and less money, or if you're lucky enough to give in all of the categories, we accept that as well. So that's how Chai for Charity was born. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the wish list. So I mentioned earlier that we invite people to give in the 4 categories: money, goods, time, and talent. And the way that we do that is that we invite nonprofits to tell us about their requests in those 4 categories. And John, if you want to pull up the wish list wall, we can show folks what that looks like. We've created a digital version of that so that we can connect the needs of nonprofits with the goods, time, and talent of our guests. And you can find it at bit.ly/Chai Chai wish list. I also sent it an email. I'm going to send it another email, and you'll get a chance to put your email address on there, and then the nonprofits will get back to you to collect on your commitments. In terms of your money donation, we try to make it as easy as possible for nonprofits and also for guests. So what we ask is for you to give your donation to Chai for Charity. Tell us how you would like to allocate it across the nonprofits, and we'll actually we'll deliver the money to nonprofits. It also helps with matching and things like that. So that's why we do it that way. You'll get more information about that after this meeting, and I'm happy to answer questions as well over email. I'm at natasha@chaiforcharity.org. Thanks again for being here. The next portion of our agenda is an opportunity for you to connect with each other. So I'm going to send you into breakout rooms for about 15 minutes, and then I'm going to bring you back and send you into a different breakout room for another 15 minutes. All right, go team.